will go live on YouTube, and I'm going to record in WebEx, and the time is 7:02 p.m.
Okay, thank you, Grace. So before calling the meeting to order, I want to welcome everybody to the June 10 meeting of the Energy and Environment Commission. This meeting is being held electronically to comply with the Governor's Stay Safe Minnesota order and to ensure the safety of all residents and staff. All members of the EEC and staff are participating from their homes or offices. For members of the commission, please remember to mute your microphone when you're not speaking and raise your hand if you would like to speak. We will have roll call votes for each motion this evening, as well as for the adjournment. I will ask the staff liaison, Grace Hancon, to call roll after each motion. Before we begin, there are a few things I'd like to cover for those listening in or watching online. There is no community comments during the meeting tonight. However, the city is committed to hearing and receiving your inputs on matters. So you can send in comments to the City Council or the EEC through the Council Correspondence web form or the city website. The recording of the meeting will also be available to watch on the city's website tomorrow. Thanks in advance for your patience as we work to conduct this meeting online, and thank you to everyone turning in tonight for your interest in the EEC and our work in the city. So Grace, I will ask you if you can do the roll call for all.
Sure. Commissioner DeCane, Commissioner Haugen,
Here.
Commissioner Haran,
Here.
Commissioner Hovanek, Commissioner Lanzis, Commissioner Lukens, Chair Martinez,
Here.
Commissioner Ratan,
Hi, here.
Commissioner Tessman,
Here.
Student Commissioner Mans, and Student Commissioner Martinez. That is the roll.
Okay, thank you, Grace. So our next item in the agenda is the approval of the meeting agenda. So I don't know if any of you have any comments or suggestions for the meeting agenda. If we don't have any comments, I suggest we move it forward. So
Moved.
Second.
Seconded.
So can you, Grace, do the roll call, please?
Yep. Commissioner DeCane, Commissioner Haugen,
Aye.
Commissioner Haran,
Aye.
Chair Martinez,
Aye.
Commissioner Ratan,
Aye.
and Commissioner Tessman.
Aye.
And I just want to note for the minutes, apologies, Chair Martinez, that Student Commissioner Anna Martinez has joined us.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Anna. Okay, so the next item is the approval of the last meeting minutes. So I don't know if any of you have any comments on the minutes. If nobody has comments, yes, I suggest we make a motion to move the minutes.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Okay, so Grace, can you help us with the roll call?
Yes, Commissioner Haugen,
Aye.
Commissioner Haran,
Aye.
Chair Martinez,
Aye.
Commissioner Ratan,
Aye.
and Commissioner Tessman.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Grace. So we have the meeting's minutes approved. So our next item, it's item number 5 and has to do with reports and recommendations. So we're going to start this with reports on the actual work plan. So I'm going to start with initiative number 1, the climate action plan. I'm going to brief you a little bit of what's happening. So as you all know, we have a climate action planning team. This team is conformed by almost 25 people. These are people from the city government and the community, and these people are working in sub teams that are focusing in different specific sectors. The sectors we are discussing in the eight groups is transportation and land use, waste management, local food, buildings and energy, climate health and safety, water and wastewater, green spaces and tree canopy, and climate economy. The planning team has had 3 meetings. The first one, the Pale Blue Dot present the same baseline assessment that it presented to us in, I think, 2 meetings ago. And it was mostly an introductory meeting. And then the second one was more like a working meeting where we discussed, we were separated in our specific groups, and we were discussing the specific sectors and discussing some of the strategies that Pale Blue Dot is proposing. We discussed them and we agree in some, and we propose some new ones. And in the third meeting, we discussed mostly on the ambition goals, the overall goals that Pale Blue Dot is proposing, as well as the goals that it's proposing for the different strategies and the different sectors. So far, I guess the good news is that we have agreed in a more ambitious goal. We have aligned the goal of the climate action plan for Edina, similar to the Hennepin County goals. And we are in the process of discussing the specific goals for each sector. So that will be discussed in the next meeting. And I guess from my side, I don't know if you have any questions for me, but I guess that's the update I have. Okay, if nobody has questions, I guess the second initiative that we're presenting today is the to-go packaging. So Michelle, I don't know if you want to present a little bit what you have done and what you expect from us, like during this meeting. I think you're mute, Michelle.
Sorry. Grace, do you have that document that it was in the packet, I believe. Can you share that?
Yes, let me get this pulled up here.
Okay, and while you're doing that, I'll just kind of talk about, so this document is has some of the items that our subcommittee group has been kind of talking amongst ourselves and working on. In the meantime, we have a draft report. It just needs to be kind of fine-tuned a bit. We put together a document that Hilda is going to share at the work session, so council can kind of see some of the directions we're going and maybe weigh in a tad bit. But there's some things that I would like to get just have a discussion with the broader EEC and also just an awareness of kind of some of the things that we are discussing and some of the things that we have to decide on. And so just here, the first thing is just our goals, and we've met with Emily Barker at St. Louis Park, and we see kind of St. Louis Park's ordinance being kind of a role model of what we'd like to do in Edina. And one thing that she'd mentioned, and it's also in a lot of literature that's out there about ordinances like this, is just kind of really knowing what your goals are, because defining your goals will help you decide some of the other items that you might see down further on this. And also just to be able to talk about the reasons why or defend the reasons why you are doing certain things. And for instance, I've got listed here, like there's, you need to ask, like, what are the problems that we're trying to solve? There's some trade-offs and everything that we, on all these decisions. And, for instance, like if our main goal is to reduce GHG emissions, some of the alternative products might have higher GHG, like let's take styrofoam or polystyrene. It's actually pretty low as far as the impact in its creation of the product versus compostables. Compostables actually take a lot more resources and GHG emissions. However, in the end use, if our goal is trash, so if you're comparing those two items, styrofoam would be maybe better if your whole goal is to reduce GHG emissions. But if our goal is trash, polystyrene is nothing but trash. You can't do anything in its end life with it. So, whereas compostables, as we know, can be composted. So if your goal is trash and reducing that, then that changes what product is more preferred. So those are some of the things that you just kind of have to think about. The one thing to keep in mind, that the more digging you do into plastics, is that it just is, it's repeated often, is that we cannot recycle our way out of the plastic issue. The amount of plastics that's being created and invested in, the gas and oil companies are actually putting more money into the creation of plastic products. The amount of plastics that are going to oceans are increasing, and the amount of plastics that are being recycled is not increasing. So we do have a plastic problem. It isn't a waste problem. It is a plastic problem. That's, just the creation that we need to kind of reduce. And so when I think of that, part of my goal is that I think we need to get rid of just plastics. And so sometimes thinking about, like, when I see companies or restaurants buying compostable products, but there's no option to compost, if my goal is to reduce plastics, that still is a better alternative. So I'm just trying to show you how it gets a little difficult, but if we can define what is important, or which trade-offs we can accept, that will help us in how we create the whole entire ordinance. And then we also need a name. So I would love some input from all of you as far as a name. And again, the name can reflect our goals or whatever, but things that we've thrown out or that we see: environmentally preferred packaging. Emily Barker, she was saying it's kind of, there's some difficulties with this title because it's kind of hard to define that environmentally preferred because of some of the things that I just mentioned. Green to go packaging is what Minneapolis uses. And when we started this thing, how many years back, Minneapolis was really happy to share all of their kind of branding on that. They kind of liked the idea of it being more of a regional thing, and so did Emily Barker at St. Louis Park. So that's kind of a plus for that. Also, it plays into the color of Edina. St. Louis Park's ordinance is actually called zero waste, but there's some issues with that. Is zero waste a little intimidating, or is it actual realistic? But that's an option. And then just preferred food service ware and packaging, pretty benign. It's kind of what it is. So I don't know. So those are things to think about. And I don't know if you guys, Grace, do you want me to go through all of the things that I would like to have input on, or just maybe start with like what we have, or wait and people can think about it and give input later?
It is for you. What do you need out of this conversation with the commission this evening? So yeah, do you want to pause and maybe discuss those first few items?
Yeah, I think so, because it would be helpful to get, like, again, a title would be good. And again, for our goals, we don't have to have, we could have all of them. We could have a whole list. I think that's okay, because most of the ordinances do. But I think in our heads, we have to know how it gets a little complicated, and just so we can talk about it and be aware that there are some of those trade-offs that we have to just, like I said, be aware of. But if anybody has any initial ideas on titles, and
is this an initiative to try to regulate what is allowed to be used within the city, or is this an initiative to try and compel businesses to make a different choice?
it would be to regulate what businesses are using for their packaging of food, to-go food stuff. So yeah, it is to regulate it. And then it would be, we would basically be telling them these are the acceptable items. And if you don't switch your inventory over, there's normally, we'd give them a grace period of like a year or so before actually, it'd be enacted, and then a year or so before we would do any kind of, what's it called? Reinforcement. Enforcement, thank you. Yeah, so the other cities that do this, they have violations and there are fees involved and whatever and that would be kind of what the staff and city would decide on what that is. But yeah.
My thought is that if it's a proposed regulation or ordinance of some sort, the brand matters a little bit less, because it's less about compelling and more just about saying this is what we're doing. So Not that it needs to be completely unbranded, but something like green to go packaging seems really straight and to the point. So I like that.
Yeah, I would second that too, John. I guess I wasn't initially clear as to the audience, but it sounds like it's all businesses, right? And has nothing, it's not consumer facing, but to me, the one title that actually kind of telegraphs what you're trying to get done and it's kind of is very clear is number 2, green to go packaging. The others are just broader, not as crisp, and somewhat boring. So I think I think at the end of the day, you want people to kind of buy into the program, but so it should, we should be able to have a little fun with it too. So I think the title is pretty clear. I like something in that green to go space, green to go packaging.
Cool.
Gets it done in a fun way.
Great. No, I appreciate that. I appreciate the feedback. The other thing is that, our businesses that will eventually have to do this, if they apply to our green business recognition program, you get a lot of points for doing this stuff. So it's kind of the title would actually kind of nicely fit into that program as well. So
Yeah, that's a good point.
anybody else have any input?
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, my input will be, how about if we say green pack, green and then PAK?
Green pack. So I need to think about that one. Because the one thing about having to go, it gives it a little bit more descriptive of what it's for, but green pack is snappy. So I'll add that one to the list. Cool.
So Michelle, I just want, I agree with the name. I guess it sounds good, right? Because it focuses on what we want, what we're trying to achieve, like to the goal packaging. I was going to, for the goals. I was thinking that based on what you were saying, that if you choose between one of the goals or the other one, why don't we, if you focus only on reducing waste, in the long term, you eventually are gonna reduce greenhouse gases, because you're not gonna generate methane that eventually come from trash. So I guess instead of focusing on reducing greenhouse gases, your goal is to reduce trash. I guess that way you don't have to, like, you don't have to think about the, I know that they will have the issue of the replacement maybe generating a little bit more greenhouse gases in the production, but eventually you will be reducing the greenhouse gases in the waste.
Right. Yep.
So,
And like I said, we'll probably have a list. And in fact, I actually should have probably put that. You'll eventually get the report, which kind of, there's multiple reasons why cities do this. So, and a lot of those things would be listed. But yeah, you make a good point, Hilda, that in the end of life, you do reduce the greenhouse gases. Yeah, and I'm sorry I didn't put all kind of like the possible goals, but a lot of it is litter, trash reduction, increase recycling, decrease, when I said trash. Yeah, and a lot of the cities are reducing this because of litter, which, a lot of people don't think about as being a problem, but it is a problem with single use. So,
yeah, that way you're not just focusing on greenhouse gases, you're also focusing on not sending trash to incinerations and generating toxic pollutants. So I guess that way you cover a more broader scope.
yeah,
By focusing on waste instead of only reducing greenhouse gases.
yeah, and also improving health and water and as well environment. So those are all things that will be listed probably on ours, but just to make sure that you guys just realize, like, somebody, just so we're clear that there's some trade-offs. However, what our ultimate goals are will help us defend what we're trying to do to people who may not want us to do this. But like I said, you guys will get the report when we finalize it. Can you scroll down again to, let's see. Okay, here's the just thing again for awareness, just the one up timing wise. So I don't know if many of you are aware, but there's been a discovery of PFAS chemicals in biodegradable or compostable products, which is a big issue, especially with the fiber, like the fiber bowls, and a lot of the products actually. So this has impacted the marketplace in a large way. In fact, as far as like supply chain, and the BPI certified or certification of compostable products has been taken away because of that. So it's been challenging because of, like I said, the supply, and because the supply has been low, it's been hard for restaurants to find them. And these manufacturers are having to quick pivot and try and find alternative ways of creating these products without PFAS. So that is a big challenge. It's one of the reasons why St. Paul has delayed its initiation on this program. It's that and COVID as well, but that has played a role. So something to think about. I don't know where exactly right now supply is, but that could, and maybe we need to think about, does that delay our timing on this or not? And again, I don't know the answer, but I just wanted to let everybody know about that has been an issue. And some of the restaurants had mentioned that as far as, like I said, them trying to comply, it's been hard for them to get compostable products. And then there's oh, go on.
Michelle, like thinking about all these issues about the timing. So, for example, if we propose this to the city council, do you know what will be the timing, and when do you expect, like, I don't know if we propose or they propose, when does the ordinance enter into effect, but I don't think it's going to be before a year or so. Or
right.
What you're thinking?
Well, and that's part of it, is that because we're not going to have, you know, we're going to give everybody a year to get their supplies. I would imagine by the time this actually is like kicked off,
yeah, this
some
time
of that supply chain will be okay. So I think as far as what we say to council is that we want to, well, Grace, what is like, what you talk about that?
Well, we can, the commission is required to make a report to council this year on this initiative, and the commission can request, can propose that the council adopts an ordinance this year, but that it would not come into effect. Either A, that it would not come into effect for some time, there'd be a delay, say a year, or that it comes into effect immediately, but that no enforcement comes into effect for 12 months, let's say. So that there's a couple ways to give businesses a heads up that this is coming and a runway to respond.
Mm-hmm. And so maybe Hilda, is that a question that Hilda and council would kind of talk about, or is that something that Grace, just us, should decide? I don't know which is better, one way or the other, since it's about the same thing.
The commission, yeah, Chair Martinez is presenting to the council next week on updates about the EEC work plan. So this might be a question to put forward to the council, and then the commission can take their feedback into consideration as you determine what your final recommendation is.
So let me ask you one thing, Grace. I guess you are the one, or Michelle, I don't know. So should we go with the council with the title already, like a proposal title, or should we, like, to make sure that they know we are focusing on this, or I'm asking, I'm not sure.
Up to you all as the commission, how much you want to share with the council.
I vote propose the title and just list your alternates or something, you know. I think, yeah, I think, you know, it's Michelle's program to lead, and I think they'll be fine with it. I think they'd probably prefer if we come forward with more definition than less. The only question I have, Michelle, I think is a great initiative, and perhaps I just missed it, but I was thinking about it when Hilda started talking. When we ultimately get to the goals, I'm curious as to how you set yourself up for success so that you can actually, at the duration of the program, like what does success look like, right? Like do you set up your goals so that you can actually measure or demonstrate that something has changed from, from this state to the desired state? You know what I mean? Otherwise, at the end of the day, like, okay, well, that's great, but how are you going to define success?
That's actually a really, really good question. And I'm just right now going to.
Is it business adoption of the new material over time? I don't, I just think any initiative should have some type of way of.
I guess it will
Yeah,
depend.
Oh, sorry.
Right?
Go ahead.
I guess it will depend on the goal. If you're trying to, I guess, maybe reduce waste and set maybe some goals in a certain period, that's where you will see the success, I guess. But for
Yeah,
that,
so-
you need to have indicators and to measure that. So I don't know who's gonna do that in the city. Yeah, right.
Yeah, sorry. So two points I wanted to make. First was exactly what Hilda just said, right? So I think the success will be measured based on what the goal is, and I think that also leads us to the point of, as we set our goals, why don't we set goals that are measurable for ourselves, right? So we can put our heads together to do that. Michelle, happy to help any way you want. And the other thing on the name bit, Greenpack, while is an amazing, snappy name, I just Googled it. Apparently, there's a corporation out there that already has that copyrighted and everything, trademarked even. So
Good point. Thanks. I appreciate those. So good points on goals. I'm going to just read, and I apologize for taking so much time, but this is important and helpful. I'm going to read you the goals that have been in kind of all the in various different ordinances, so you get an idea of what's out there, and maybe we can talk about how they can be measured. So one of the ones that I think we need to do is the Hennepin County has a goal, and actually Twin Cities metro areas need to reduce their trash by 75%, by 75% by 2030. So something like this would help reduce or help us get to that goal. And we can measure that however the city measures that. So that is something measurable, I believe. But that is a goal that Hennepin County has set. So some other ones like minimize the amount of single-use disposable food and beverage packaging that must be thrown in the garbage and thus disposed via incineration or landfilling, which are the least preferred options in Minnesota's waste disposal hierarchy. So there's a hierarchy set by the state where incineration and landfill are the bottom two. You've got reduce, reuse, recycle, compost, and then those last two. So by doing that, that will also help us get to the goal of not putting things, not burning and not trashing things in landfill. Maximize the amount of single-use food and beverage packaging items that can be recycled or composted. Again, I don't know if we can measure that by our recycling numbers, but the big thing is plastic or polystyrene in any form can't be recycled. So if we can get rid of the use of that in any of our to-go packaging, that in itself has reduced the amount of trash because now there's better options. We can recycle or a composted option is available. So that, again, hopefully the city can help us out with our recycling numbers. I'm not sure, but encourage, minimize contamination or in organics and recycling. And that's something that the city of St. Louis Park has been focused on, and they found that the composting has been greatly contaminated. And so their one big goal that they just added 2 years ago was trying to reduce the contamination. And that's something we can put in ours or not. But they wanted to go that step further because it's great if you compost, but if it's so contaminated that it has to go in the trash, therefore you're not doing anything to reach your goals. And again, I think the way to measure that is by talking to our composting facilities to find out, have they had to turn away any of our compost collections? So that would be measurable. And then you've got like reduce the economic environmental health costs of waste management. I think that's a little harder, but it's an ambitious goal. So I don't know. I mean, that's something to say like it's something that we strive for. I don't know how we reduce it or measure it, but I don't know if we have to actually measure that or not, or can we just say that's what we want to do for our environment? Reduce the amount of litter that's created. I suppose that's something visually we can see, but again, is that something we want to put in there because it should be a good goal for ours? So I don't know if that's helping anybody or if you feel that that is measurable enough or what, but just wanted to run that.
I think that the elimination of what is a known environmental harm, polystyrene principally, and then fairly unrecyclable plastics that still have a little recycle logo, but we know can't really be reused and repurposed in anything and aren't. I think eliminating that, I think your point about that being a win in and of itself is what I keep going back to. A lot of these goals, while I think they're relevant, I think they're important as part of a larger sustainability initiative on behalf of the city. They seem like they are adjacent to this, and this issue does contribute, but it's like a different end point than an ordinance like this could satisfy. So I think the goal that seems most direct to me is eliminating to-go packaging that has nowhere to go other than landfill or incineration.
Yeah, and just boil it down to something simple like that.
Yeah, I agree with John. I think it might be worth still like keeping the 75% goal that you mentioned, just like as like Tom said, to like have a measurable one. Because I mean, I guess we could measure the other one too, but like I think that just like ties it to like the county, and I think that it's important that we keep that one too.
Okay. Thanks. Anybody else have any input? Like I said, I really appreciate this. So Grace, do we still have time for me to keep going?
Yes,
Okay,
as long
thanks.
as Chair Martinez agrees.
Okay. So then some other the details that I want to share and would love feedback are these exemptions and maybe some description or some explanations. These are some of the things that, again, a lot of these ordinances have. Both Minneapolis and St. Louis Park have this first one. And first, when we were talking as a group, we're like, why do we need to exempt hospitals and nursing homes? Why can't they just be like everything else? And from St. Louis Park's and Minneapolis's viewpoint is they basically, their realm or sphere of influence, whatever, is not in like with patients. They didn't want to have to regulate patient care. And they felt it was different than kind of just consumers purchasing something to eat. Patients don't have a choice. They don't have a choice of how to dispose. It's kind of hard, that interface with patients in a hospital and where things are being thrown away. They just felt it would be hard to regulate that industry, and they just kind of wanted to stay away from it. I'm fine in exempting that because I don't know exactly how that would work either. And again, I think we can start somewhere, and we can always, with any exemption, what these cities have done, they set it up so there's a yearly review. We can always put them, take away that exemption. But so I'm totally comfortable leaving hospitals and nursing homes in there. And then, but however, like some of those common eating spaces, like any cafeterias or coffee shops that are within a hospital or nursing home, do have to comply with the regulation or with the ordinance. So that is that. Utensils is interesting. So St. Louis Park has banned all utensils that are made of anything except a compostable product. So they see it as a main reason or main source of contamination. And by just banning anything, because, well, they also said the only product that is polystyrene is pretty much the only material used for utensils. That's because it's strong enough. So again, that's just trash. There's nothing that can be done with it. So they decided just to go all compostable because then it doesn't contaminate the compost and it's just a far less environmentally, it's far more environmentally friendly than any of the other alternatives. So that's something that we need to decide on as a group and would love to hear your input. I'm going to go through some of the others so you can think about all of them. Straws is another one. You know, everybody wants to hate a straw, and I get it. So it's a question to ban or not to ban, or just to request. So St. Louis Park is basically stuck with regular straws. They haven't made it where they had to be compostable. However, they are just doing it on request. So you don't automatically give a straw with a beverage. The customer has to request it. So, and then Minneapolis doesn't consider it part of packaging, so they have not touched it. It is an exempt product. So something for us to consider is, how do we want to look at straws? Do we want to say, do something similar with St. Louis Park, or do we want to go a step further and say, no, they have to be compostable? And I think I kind of like the idea of just not giving it except on request, but do we want to make it a regular straw or a compostable straw? So that's, I think those are kind of just the big exemptions that, you know, they're not that big, but how far do we want to start? Where do we want to start? Any input from anyone?
It seems to me like the utensils and straws need to be included. I don't really, I'm sure it made sense for the folks at the time who were working on that. I don't really understand the logic there on excluding them. I would be strongly in favor. I mean, they exist. We know that compostable straws, compostable utensils exist. So why would we not also regulate that into this? It seems like kind of a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, anyone else? Weigh in? Yay, nay? Do we vote?
I
Do we
would say a
vote?
yes. I would say yes.
Is-
And also, one of the things we could think about is recommending that some of the restaurants, if their patrons are requesting these, to-go utensils, they maybe charge a nominal fee for it.
I also think it'll be nearly impossible to gain support for this if we outright ban something like straws.
Oh, yeah.
I would be strongly opposed to an outright ban on straws. I think a compostable straw on request is perfectly fine and should keep the heat down.
Hey,
Okay.
John, I have a question for John. So these compostable straws and utensils, are they priced competitively? I mean, is it going to be an issue for the business to pass that expense along, or I don't know anything about those products?
In my experience, I don't have percentages, but in my experience, they are not the same cost as a polystyrene utensil or straw. I think it's perfectly reasonable for a restaurant to pass this along to the customer. And I think the expectation is that the customer will end up paying 10 to 20 cents more for a meal that they're taking away. And personally, I don't have a problem with that. I think that's, to-go food is something that typically can support that. I mean, I think the businesses most of them are likely concerned about this and the cost of it, and they have every right to be. But this seems like something we need to do to mitigate environmental harm, and I think the cost is worth it, and that should ultimately be borne by the customer.
And another idea that I came across a few years ago when I was living elsewhere was when customers showed up with their own Tupperware or utensils, they got a little bit of a discount as well on the food. Now, we'll have to check if, health codes allow that and, what that looks like, but that's also an idea that we could consider.
Any other input on straws and utensils?
I agree with the, I guess I guess straws, if it were for me, I would ban them, but I know there's people that they like straws, so I guess I should go for compostables. And the thing with utensils, I think, it's not the same as a straw. A straw is not really, it's not that you really need a straw. You can drink whatever you're drinking without a straw. The thing is that if you go for your food and you take it away, eventually you will need the utensils. So I don't know, how can we make sure that those are compostable? Because like making part of the ordinance or the regulation, but make sure that they are compostable, because eventually those you need to give them. I don't think there's another way, because normally people they buy their food to eat it somewhere, not in their places, so eventually they will need that. So I guess that's the issue with the utensils.
It's easier than regulating it that every food item sold be a sandwich or something.
Well, that could be.
I wouldn't mind that, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I'd be into that, but
No salads or pasta.
Thank you. Okay, so and one last thing that, again, St. Louis Park had implemented 2 years ago is, again, their big push was trying to reduce contamination. And what they were finding, and I think if you guys have probably all experienced this, you get a compostable cup, but then you have a recyclable lid. So they basically said that if you're going to sell a compostable cup, you have to have a compostable lid. If you're going to sell a recyclable cup, it has to have a recyclable lid. Because again, after doing this for such a long period of time, they're kind of, the next step was, now we got to work on the contamination. I don't think we can necessarily wait kind of like they did, because contamination has become a big thing in the compost, especially now as these programs are growing. They used to be able to allow a lot more products in the compost because there wasn't so much. But now those little bits of contamination, when you figure out how big the program is becoming, are becoming significant. And some of the compost is being rejected by people who buy the compost. So this is something I hadn't thought about, but it does make a lot of sense. But I know that, and there are products for both lids and cups. But I know it definitely is easier to give a compostable cup and just throw in a PET lid and versus a compostable lid. So I don't know, I mean, probably know your thoughts, but thoughts?
I think we should do it, like, honestly, like, even like at school or anywhere, like the easiest you make it, like, for people, the better it's gonna be, because people aren't really willing to take the time to figure out where everything goes. And maybe, like, it's not even that they're not willing, they just don't know, like, it's so complicated. So like, if there's a way to make it easier for them, I say we do that.
Yeah, well, I think we've all probably, you get your straw, your lid, and your cup. And if you think the cup is compostable, you just throw it all together. And so if we had this where the straws are compostable and their lids, then it just, then we're actually being effective. This would be more effective as an ordinance. But does anybody have any other thoughts? Okay. I think that is all I had. I appreciate everybody's input. I just wanted to make sure that we all had had some time to give some input, and so it wasn't just residing in our small group, because I think this is for me, proposing this to the council, they're expecting to make sure that we're doing our due diligence so then they can make an informed decision. Because I don't want to set any of them up, right? I don't, they're going to put themselves out there by agreeing to this, and I think we all have to really feel good about our decisions and why. And so that's why I just want to make sure that we all had a voice in this, and then we'll put this all together in an ordinance, hopefully, and council will love it. But thanks. And if anybody has any other thoughts, feel free to email me.
I have a question, just like about the exemptions. Like, I don't know, what are your thoughts on like catering? Is that like one of the business, like, is that like part of the of the ordinance, or are we just like not assuming that they're gonna be involved in this? Because I guess it's not really to go, but it kind of is. So I don't know.
Actually, that's a good point. Caterers was a big exemption, I think in both ordinances. And I think they booted that off. I know St. Louis Park, it isn't in theirs, and I can't remember if I saw it in Minneapolis. I don't remember seeing it. So they might have gotten rid of that exemption because it was on there when all these ordinances first passed.
I think, yeah, from what I talked to the person in Minneapolis about was like I think they still have that exemption for catering businesses because they said like since the city can't regulate like catering businesses from outside of the city, it was like a competitive like disadvantage. So I don't know if we want to like include that too, or if we think they should just have the same requirements.
Yeah, I forgot about for catering. I think St. Louis Park took it out of theirs. But thanks for reminding me, because yeah, that was a big issue with Minneapolis.
When you said took it out of theirs, do you mean they took the exemption for caterers out, or they took caterers out of the ordinance from being required to comply?
They took the exemption out, but I'll have
Okay.
to double check that for St. Louis Park. But I don't remember.
I think that for an Edina-based catering organization that's preparing food in Edina, that ordinance should be applicable. I think when a caterer is bringing food outside or prepared from outside Edina into Edina, that's next to impossible to enforce and probably unfair. So,
right.
And then that gets to like, all right, well, where does the waste end up? Well, the ones bringing it in, or the waste ends up here. And when they're preparing any dine and bringing it out, it ends up elsewhere. But I think this is about making sure businesses in Edina are performing and adopting environmentally sound practices. And so I think catering organizations in Edina should be included.
And then other things that would be included but enlisted here is like food trucks and who's responsible for the food truck disposal. And most of the ordinances say the place hosting the food truck needs to make sure they have, recycling, composting, co-collecting, or co-located. What other details? But other than that, like I said, if we came up with any exemptions, like I said, that would be, or if somebody came and said, hey, we are having a difficult time, we cannot find an actual product that will take the place of this product, we can look at it and say, you know what, you're correct, that's not viable, so we'll put an exemption on and we will review it in a year. One thing that is still on the exemption list in St. Louis Park is like food wrappers for like, a lot of food wrappers actually, because all of the wrappers, even the ones that we think should be compostable, have a thin lining of plastic. And food restaurants, whatever, food organizations, whatever, businesses say they, with a lot of hot food, you need to contain those juices. And so therefore they haven't found a product that's viable. And that seems to be the case. Again, that would be something that we'd have to, kind of look into, that we still need to look into. Other than that.
So, Michelle, before you close, regarding the, I guess the catering, I think we need to think a little bit more about that one, because I guess it will be unfair. I will guess you put the businesses in disadvantage. The ones here in Edina, they have to comply, but the ones that are outside the city, they don't. So I don't know why. Like I guess I'm thinking about the businesses. Because changing to compostable, I guess it implies a price change on their packaging and probably increase. So I guess well, they will have this overprice that eventually they will have to pay, and the ones from outside the city won't. Maybe if they're from St. Louis Park and from Minneapolis, they will have to have this compostable, but the ones that don't, like from another city, they don't have to comply. So I guess I think we need to think a little bit more on that one, because I think we need to be fair.
Yep. No. So I'll look more into the catering and any other. I need to check on. There's a couple other, like I said, the food wraps is still something that there hasn't been a good viable option. And I'll let you know. Right now, I can't think if there's any other ones in that. But any exemption that our group would come up with, like I said, there would be a yearly review. And then I guess that's it. That's all I have.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
So,
Thanks, guys.
yeah, so our next item will be the initiative number 3, which has to do with the event tabling. And I think Bayardo is here, so I guess he can talk a little bit about it. Welcome, Bayardo.
Okay, thank you. I was watching you guys for about the first 10-15 minutes over on the YouTube channel for the city, because I had not received or seen that email come in for the meeting tonight. Gladly, I was able to have both Ilda and or Grace forwarded so I can join. Yes, I will be tabling basically most of the, if not all of the farmers markets with Twyla, and we'll welcome anybody that wants to join and help out, or anybody has extra time and can come. We're welcoming you.
Okay, Bayardo, let me jump in. I know there's probably going to be more than, I guess there are 20 or so farmers market happening. So I just want to, and I know Bayardo is leading, but I think this is an initiative for all the commissions. So I will ask that at least we sign for one, each of us, because I know Bayardo is doing them, but it's a lot of work. So I guess if I don't know if you were able to send Grace the signing up sheet, but if you can do that, I would appreciate if all the members will sign at least for one. It will be great if you could be the 4 hours, but if not, maybe a couple of hours. So please check your calendars and try to sign up so Bayardo can see who's signing up for which day, and he can, and we can all participate on this. Basically, it's helping with organics. Is that correct, Bayardo? Yes, that's what we're promoting.
That is
right
correct.
now,
Well,
right?
we'll continue to talk and help educate the residents in organics, and I believe Twyla has a broad range of topics that she's gonna kind of also discuss together, but not, but also separately from because she represents the city. We work as a commission separately from the city, so even though we'll be at the same tent, it'll be slightly kind of separate topics or kind of separate, I guess, people representing, one representing the city, one representing just the commission.
So yes, I will send a Google sign up to the commission tomorrow with the dates. And I know that we've talked about organics as well as the climate action plan. So I'll include a couple kind of topical columns if people want to specifically put their names in about a specific topic and a date. So you'll have that tomorrow. It'll be live. Everyone can edit it.
So Grace, can you know that Pale Blue Dot, they said they had this like infographics. Do you think we can pick some of them, and maybe the people that are maybe in the group of climate, in the climate team, whenever they go there, maybe they can talk, or do you think that will be possible for the tabling also?
We can certainly share the printouts of the infographics, and I'll ensure that we can prepare those in multiple languages. Are you asking if some of the climate action plan team members might want to table?
Well, I know, no, I mean, like I'm part of the team, and I know Ted is also, and Anna. So I guess maybe when we are there, we can also talk about the climate action plan. Well, if the others, if they are there, feel comfortable talking about it, that could be also a good opportunity to talk about it. So like,
Yeah,
we have two topics on the climate action plan, and as you said, maybe there's another one.
Yep, perfect.
I just received this week all the educational paperwork and the magnets from the county, so I'm ready to go on my end. But if there's other topics that we can bring on as far as like our workload and what we do, I think that'd be a great idea to actually also help out at the farmers markets.
So did you go today, Bayardo? Were you there? No.
No.
Today? No? Okay. Yeah, I guess it was too hot, huh?
Yeah. I believe Twilight said to start on the 17th, which is next week. So
Okay. Okay. Well, then Grace will share that Google Doc, and we can all write down. I will appreciate if at least you sign for one. That will be very useful. Okay. Thank you, Bayardo.
thank you.
So our next topic is initiative number 5, which is the Green Business Recognition Program. So I don't know, Michelle, do you have anything to tell us about it?
Nothing to add.
Oh, okay, perfect. So I guess with that, we finish the revision of the initiative for the 2021 work plan. And we need to start to work on the 2020 work plan. So basically, I'm proposing to start like with bringing some ideas to the table. I guess what I will propose first is to revise which of the initiatives that we already have, like the ones currently happening, we're able to move for next year. Like, for example, the business recognition, the tabling. I guess those ones are continue for next year, but we need new ones. So I don't know if any of you have ideas, or do you want to revise the parking lot? Can you put the parking lot of the work plan, Grace? And maybe I can read it and see if somebody's interested in doing some of those.
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same thing. I mean, those stuff that we put it in the parking lot, if they can come to the work plan for 2021, especially for the plastic bag ordinances.
So yeah, I guess we're starting with ideas. We don't need to. We have 3 months. We have 3 meetings. This one, and then the July until August to have a work plan finalized. So I think today we can discuss some ideas, and then if we're interested in pursuing one, we can bring information for the next one, and I don't know, have a list, and then decide which one we decide to do. So last year when we did the work plan, we had some discussion on different programs or ideas that we could all work in the plan. Eventually they didn't make it to the plan, but we can discuss them. The first one was the develop of a program with Realtors, like very similar to the Green Business Recognition Program. We were thinking about like the owners of their house were able to showcase their environmental improvement, like to their through making maybe insulation or acquiring a new air conditioner equipment. So when they were selling their house, they were able to showcase that they have these things that make their house more efficient. We were talking about that. It was an idea. This was linked to this Energy Squad initiative that we have in the city that I don't know if Grace, if you can talk a little bit about that initiative so everybody understand what is it about. They want to talk about it?
Sure. Yeah, the Home Energy Squad initiative is a program that the city works with a nonprofit partner called the Center for Energy and Environment to provide subsidized energy assessments for homes, and they can be single family or multifamily homes. A resident can pay either $35 for a very simple assessment, $50 for a more robust assessment, or $0 if they qualify, if their household income is less than $100,000. And they receive an energy assessment. They receive very basic energy efficiency improvements like low flow shower heads, LED light bulbs, weather stripping, and then they also receive a list of more intense interventions like HVAC, increased installation or an HVAC upgrade, and recommended contractors who work in kind of like the green home space. So that is ongoing. We do almost 200 homes a year, but obviously it's not promoted well enough because I think not many folks know about it. But anyway, I think that is currently underway. But Chair Martinez, what you're talking about is kind of on the other side, like before someone is in a home in the first place. Better, yeah.
So basically, I'm thinking about this is the one that it's in the parking lot, but I was also thinking about how to promote this more. I don't know, a lot of, as you said, you have 200 houses a year, and I think it's not what the city. I guess the target for the city is much more bigger. So either link it with this program, like this program that when somebody wants to sell their house, they know, look, my efficiency, because I'm going to talk about my experience. We did that energy squad visit, and they gave us like our house was 85% efficient, so we needed to do some things. Eventually we decided to do some, others not. But what I mean is that if that could be something that if I wish to sell my house, could be like, oh, look, my house is 100% or not, well, okay, no, it's not going to be 100, but I guess it's 85, so it's very efficient, so I don't waste that, I don't pay that much in energy. So I think those are things that may eventually could make a decision on buying or selling a house. So that's why we were thinking on that last year. The other thing is that I think also link it as how to promote more this initiative, like I don't know if tabling or educating people, I don't know, reaching out to the community. This is an idea. This is what we were discussing last year, and it didn't move on, but that's what I just want to make the new commissioners know what we were thinking when we were discussing this list of initiatives. The other one, sorry.
Oh, well,
Sorry.
yeah, if I can just interject one thing, I do know that other cities have been working on a similar program this year. The city of Bloomington is working to pass what's called a time of sale energy disclosure and ordinance, and that is where a home's energy intensity would be disclosed as part of when it comes up for sale. And so there are policy frameworks out there that would meet, I think, some of the interests in this item.
Yeah, and I think Minneapolis also have something similar. So I guess that could be one initiative. I'm not saying we do it, but I just want to present it to all of you so you think about it. Thank you, Grace. So the other one is, working more with other cities on coordinating with about climate action. I know several cities around neighbors to Edina are working on their climate action plan. Some of them they already have one, or they're just starting to work as us. So maybe trying to engage with them and see what they are doing. I don't know. That could be another one that we were thinking. The other one was related with this environmental justice. So trying to see. Trying to see all these inequalities related to the environmental movement. I don't remember very much about it, but I guess, I don't know if Ana or Rayardo or Michelle remember more about what we were thinking, or maybe Ukasha, I guess, I don't know who proposed that, but I guess it's more like trying to, more with environmental justice, I guess. Also, at a certain moment, we have a request. Several cities in the Twin Cities has a rebate program for water, for saving water. So somebody asked us if we can try to work something in water. What we found out is that those cities working in rebates program, they had some finance from the state, from the Metropolitan Council, and it opened, I think, every 2 or 3 years, and currently it's not open, but eventually if we want to work on that, we can try to see if the city is willing to provide some rebates for trying to, I guess it has to do with more to water saving equipment for the lawn and for like showers and those kinds of things. So we can always work on that. Then we also were discussing about how to bring underserved or other communities to educate them in the environmental issues. I know Kasha is very interested in that topic, so I guess that could also be another one. And the one the before that is community-wide environmental event, listening to what the community is saying. I really don't remember that one. What it was about? I guess has to do with communicating what we're doing or hearing the community, what, like this example of the water, that what they are proposing and trying to see if we can do something with them. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure about that one. And the other one, we were also proposing a plastic bag policy. Eventually it was presented to the council, and the council asked us to put it in the parking lot. They were not willing to work on that policy. So maybe if they decide to move that, to go ordinance forward, maybe we can start working in the plastic bag policy. So those were the initiatives that we discussed last year, and we left it in the parking lot. Eventually we can retake them. Eventually we can leave them there. And we can also bring new ideas. I don't know if anybody of you had any idea, thought of any idea that you want to bring into the discussion, into the, I'm gonna open the floor if anybody has an idea. Bayardo?
Oh, more than an idea, I guess. We do, I guess, out of the 5 that we're supposed to work on, and how many they would allow us to work on for the next year, would be, some of the continuing items on the work plan, which would be the CAP, the tabling, or the education, or I guess education and outreach to the community, which I'm helping or trying to help with, and then whatever other 3 or more that we want to introduce. What we used to do for the last few years is there was a poll, and then we had basically like the commissioners vote on what are the ones that matter most, and the ones that got the more, I guess, rating, or the most importance on.
So, but where did you get those ideas from the poll? From a discussion between the commission?
Yeah,
or?
so I could see a couple, and a few actually in the parking lot that I would love to bring up in the next work plan. Having said that, there's at least 1, 2, 3, because Michelle's green the green business initiative, I think it should continue as well. So I think we have 3 that should be just continuing items, and then depending on how many items the council is going to allow us to add on there, it's a different story. But I think definitely taking a poll on the ones that are currently there in the parking lot, if there are no other new initiatives, would be the way to go forward, because I know that time is ticking for us, and we should get going on this.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I guess like 3 of the ones currently on our work plan will eventually move to the next year. So the ones you mentioned. So I agree. We should think about having at least 3 more or more if we want. I remember that last year we present 10 to the council, and they took 3 out. So I guess we shouldn't, we can present as many as we want. Eventually we'll decide which ones we will be able to work. So I guess the poll is a good idea, but before, maybe we can add some more to that list. I don't know if Tom or John or Jeff has any new ones that wants to discuss. Yes, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of a process question. So you took 10 ideas, the council adopted 7. Were the 3 that were rejected because they thought it was too much, too many initiatives, or did they not like the initiative?
They thought that it was going to be a lot of work, so they
Yep.
took them off.
Yeah.
The one was a plastic bag policy, and the other ones, I
Yeah.
don't remember
I mean-
which one were the other ones, but yeah, they thought it was a lot of work. For me, I don't.
Yep.
I don't thought. I really don't think that way. I think it wasn't that much, but they said that we shouldn't. That we should try to focus on less.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, the complexity of the initiative, right? Like climate action plan, 3-4 members of the commission are working on that. The green energy program or recognition program requires multiple resources. So I would rather have us focus on fewer, bigger ideas that we could fully vet and do well than having 10 smaller initiatives.
No,
So
no.
at the end of the day, right?
I agree with you, but for example, there in our current work plan, there are 2
Mhm.
of them. For example, the initiative number 7, which
Mm-hmm.
is the one we're doing with the Transportation Commission, that we're really, besides presenting what they did, I don't know if we're gonna do more. I don't know, because we haven't done much. And then there's the one that we give advice to Grace about the fund, the sustainability fund. So I guess those 2 it's
Yep.
not that we have a lot of things to do.
Yep.
So yeah, I
No.
know the other ones, they have work to be done, but I mean, yeah, I know some of them imply that the participation of various of the commissioners, but I think we can think about 7. If we think that we have 3 that are continuing, maybe we can think about 4, which will be right.
Yeah.
Because
I think that makes sense. I love some of the ideas here, but I think they might warrant further discussion in terms of, before I vote on them, I would like to have a little more conversation around each and every one of them and flesh them out a little bit as to what they could be as an idea. Just an observation. I don't know if
yes,
others
that's
feel that way.
no, that's why we are here. So yeah, like I'm presenting you what I remember from last year, but eventually maybe
Mhm.
the other commissioners that were last year in the discussion can give you a little bit more of what they remember. I don't know if Michelle or Bayardo or Anna
Right.
want to give some.
Yeah, I guess, for example, Hilda, I'm thinking like the first one is great. I love the idea of encouraging people to do the energy audit. Does it have to flow through the nonprofit organization? Xcel Energy does, energy audit. So there are different ways to tackle it. This way it seems a little narrower than I think it could be, because it's focused on, just focusing on the value from a sale perspective, but I'm sure 95% of the people in Edina are going to stay in their home over the next few years. So I think it should just be like, this is a good thing to do, irrespective of whether you're going to be selling your home. And how do we do that so it's very easily for people to get their head around an energy audit,
I agree
That's
with you.
all.
That's what I was talking to Grace of, to see how we can maybe increase like people know about this, not
Mhm.
necessarily for selling their home, because eventually the savings are going to be for them. You're going to
Sure.
use electricity, less gas. So I guess, yeah, we thought about the realtor things, but eventually it's more how, like if you invest, okay, the audit costs less than 50 because the city paid half of it, okay? So then you do the audit, and then you know which are the issues you have. Some of them are solved with the audit, some of them are more, you need more investment. It's up
Right.
to you if you want to do them, or eventually you do it with, because they give you some rebates, but but what I mean is you do it because you're gonna have the benefits as the owner of the house.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
suspect the first hurdle is getting awareness that the audit exists and
exactly.
that it's worthwhile. So, I mean, I think there are many ways we could promote that audit and its cost. I'm sure we could get free space if we put together a little ad. We could drop it in the local newspaper for everyone to see, or emails or other ways, other forms of communication. So I just think there's probably a low awareness level that program exists, and how do you even sign up for it?
Yeah, Bayardo.
I would suggest if the council, if the commission agrees to have this on the working plan for next year, obviously pending approval from council. If we get all the information and maybe even somebody from Excel, we could even host them at the farmers market to try to spread the word, or try to like even kind of do a canvas to see if it's worth our investment of time.
Anybody has anything else to say? Michelle?
So I have a couple thoughts. I'm going to apologize because my brain is spinning a little bit. So I've got a couple things. So in the comp plan, just to give us maybe ways to think about how to come up with ideas, they have, it's listed in our chapter that they've, the different areas of focus, which is pretty all self-explanatory and obvious. But so energy, water, solid waste, air quality, trees, and natural habitat and environmental contamination. So if we kind of think of those as maybe guiding some of our ideas, for one, natural habitat brought, what was it, 2 years ago, the council passed the pollinator friendly resolution that basically said the city is pollinator friendly, and it was going to kind of take these steps to protect pollinators. And I think that's something that we should promote, and maybe we can also add that to the farmers market tabling information, because I think that's a perfect place where people would love to know about that. I don't think anybody really knows that we've done that as a city. But in conjunction with that, is there other kind of ways in that we can educate or encourage our residents to maybe think differently about their turf? Turf is basically a dead zone for pollinators. And so maybe if we could come up as a commission of ways to incentivize or get the word out that, you don't have to necessarily have a green, perfect lawn. Maybe you have a higher tolerance for weeds. Maybe you plant some native plants, but maybe that could be something. And then it ties into something that we've already done. Also on the parking lot, as far as the social justice piece, what popped in my head when we were talking about Home Energy Squad, $50 isn't a lot for some of us, but it is a lot for maybe more of us than we realize in this community. So that, although it doesn't seem an obstacle, might be an obstacle. So how can we think about how to create less of those obstacles for people who, that, like I said, that might not be affordable, or there's language barriers. Maybe we're not getting to everybody because they don't have the right communications, they don't have the right language, not the right language, the language skills to find that information. So I think we could tie in a lot of these actions, I think, together, like tabling, talking about pollinators, talking about Home Energy Squad, but also making sure that we're reaching out to communities that aren't normally in those certain spaces, which then brings me to another thought of just like multifamily units. It's really hard to make sure that there's recycling and composting available. And is there a way that we can actually reach out to those property owners and those the people that live there to try and make sure that those infrastructures for composting and recycling are there, and maybe we can find a way to reach out? Because I know it's a tough thing. I've worked with Solvay trying to engage in multifamily homes or multifamily apartment units, and it's not easy. But is there a way that we could do that? Because I think we could make an inroad in our waste issues there. Also tying in water to a couple different things, a couple different initiatives, that water sensor. I mean, like maybe we just take water as an issue and talk about water sensors, talk about fertilizer, talk about, again, native plantings that act as filters, talk about how, turf doesn't have deep roots, but all these other native plants have deep roots that not only keep the soil secure, but also do a lot of infiltration. So I'm just spewing a lot of stuff that just kind of came to my head. I might be done now. I am.
I think this might make you happy, Michelle, but a lot of what you just brought up is actually going to be discussed by Twyla. She is a big bee supporter, and one of the things that her and I share in common is that I leave the wild blooms of all the mini flowers as long as I can out there because I want to be as bee friendly as possible. Some of my neighbors actually complain that I leave them for about like the first 2 months of the spring, and then I have to cut them down. But yeah, that's one of the things that she will be definitely talking about is about the bees.
Yeah, talking about pollinators, I have to add, I want to tell you about a proposal that a lady approached, it approached Caroline Jackson, and I think it approached Grace also. And I think it's not a very bad idea. I talked with her. She's proposing a thing called No Mow May. And what she's proposing is that that the city reach a resolution that allows whoever doesn't want to mow their lawn in May are allowed to do it. And she told me it's a movement that is started in UK, and it has and what it promotes is the pollinators. It allows the pollinators to be more friendly to the pollinators. And I think you don't mow it for a month, which is May. And she was telling me that she did last year, and that she also had a vegetable garden, and the yield of the garden was much more bigger that year that she did it for the first time. So I guess that could be, and she talked a lot about the resolution. She knew about the pollinator resolution. So she said that it's a way to link it to the pollinator resolution. And she even has some signs in her garden, because she did have the visit of the city sent some notes saying that she needed to mow her garden, but eventually she didn't do it. So she was proposing that maybe be an optional thing, and that the city could allow those ones that doesn't want to mow their garden do it. So I guess that could be one of the things we can link into pollinators, and also you won't need to water it. So yeah, I guess there's a lot of positive things with that. So I guess that could be one of the things linked to what you're saying, Michelle, about this pollinator resolution, and what Bayardo is also saying. Just about just one thing about the energy squad. I understand, which maybe Grace can confirm that. Eventually, I guess for a certain range, they don't need to pay anything, Grace. Am I correct? Depending.
That's correct. It's new for this year, though, that any household who makes less than $100,000 receives a free visit. Yeah, but it's
That
new.
shouldn't. Yeah, that's very generous.
So I don't know, Michelle?
Yeah, sorry, one more thought. So tying into kind of that whole pollinator thing, I think that's really cool about May, though. I like that a lot. Also, what if tying into maybe our school age kids, if there was like, you've got those pollinator friendly signs that you can put in your yard, or bee friendly signs. What if we could engage kids of all ages to create some kind of a sign that the city could make for residents to put in their yard, and take like 5 or 10 designs and print them up and have people grab them for their yards or something? I know that would cost money, but just a thought.
Anybody else that wants to say something? Ukasha, do you want to say anything about some of the topics you have thought about it?
Which ones?
I understand that you want to do some outreach, right, with underserved communities and the Eastern African. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so pretty much it's what we have already talked about. So it's like we are hosting a community conversations right around climate education for the East African communities. And oftentimes, these are communities that have not been engaged in so many efforts the city has been doing. It's either due to language or literacy barriers or technology barriers or internet or anything, to name a few. And these people, last time when we talked about ways we can engage them in a commission meeting, we came up with the idea of having informal community conversations. And later we named that as a Iskashi discussions, which is more of, Iskashi is a Somali word meaning collaboration. And that collaboration is to collaborate the community in the lens of sustainability and how they can bring their views and their insights and perspectives when it comes to climate and energy saving. So having another meeting is what we think will be more relevant in this coming up summer. So we are kind of planning on a big event that will be a movie screening that will be related to environment and sustainability. Once we figured it out, that we will share with that. And then in those conversations, we also talked about how ways we can, the city can be more efficient in communicating with the public in a different language or in different outputs, or even in a language that are kind of more understandable to some of the residents that are living in Edina. So I think it's up to the city right now to decide on what are the outreach channels they want to use and what kind of language or translation services that they will use to bring on those. And I've been observing this, and not only in energy and environment, but in other commissions too, where the public comments have never been an option for communities or people who are just like me, faced by either technology or language barriers. So how can we bring their voices to the table to be an inclusive and diverse city that cares for all residents? So yeah, it's something that we can talk about, but these conversations are right around in our backyards, where we collaboratively talk on those kind of different sustainability issues. And we are thinking of bringing in the social justice lens into those environmental and sustainability conversations. Anyone who is interested are free and are invited as a public members.
Okay, thank you, Kasha. But are you thinking about, I understand that you're doing this with your community, but are you like interested in doing something as part of the Energy and Environment Commission?
Yeah, so I think we've reached out to Grace the other day to figure it out ways we can do this collaboratively through the EEC. And yeah, so we are down for collaboration. So Grace, you can talk more about it. I just started my day 4 a.m. At this point, I'm not making sense. But yes, but you can bring some ideas that we have already talked about, but we would love to have AEC be part of it.
Yeah, thanks, Ukasha. We do have some written ideas that can be included, I think, in our next round of brainstorming. So Ukasha covered it. The way that the EEC could potentially basically bridge what's already occurring in the community, particularly with residents who are of East African descent, and city resources. So the what I heard from Ukasha and his team was that the role that the EEC could play could be to kind of offer support for these community efforts that are already underway, essentially. So around sustainability conversations with groups who are traditionally not involved in these official processes. So I think that fits So we should include that, I think, probably as a draft work plan item and continue to discuss it. Tom?
Else?
Yeah, I have a, I was thinking, and I don't know if this, to me, that conversation kind of ties in with the number 6 bullet point down there of like, how do we engage the community and get ongoing ideas from the community? To me, that is a great program. I mean, even when we're out doing our tabling events, do we have a way for people to drop ideas into a little box? I would hope that those, if we could gather ideas, that might be a great way for the commission longer term to identify areas for us to tackle over time. So I don't know if your program, Kasha, is like a subset of that overarching community input, but how do we create a program where we constantly are gathering? Yeah, you could do one event, or you could do a series of events. Could be a big event, could be kind of ongoing at a tabling event. It could be certain communities where you have to do something special to ensure that their voice is heard. So we could create a whole program around how do we solicit community input for this commission, so that as we tackle new ideas year over year, we're on ideas that are resonating with the community. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah, that's actually a good question. I mean, first of all, I want to just know the public know that this is not only an East African kind of oriented. It's like generally for everyone who is being language, like having a language barrier and technology barrier. There is Latinos or any other person who is facing these challenges, ways they can be part of this. And East African being a model for that, I think what we're planning right now is to have a series of conversations that will be happening all throughout the summer. And then as the weather gets colder, I mean, we can figure it out ways we can collaborate those in an indoor hot space. But yes, it's something that we can work with EEC on ways they can be part of this. But on the other hand, I mean, we need this to be more of community oriented, and EEC being part of it, like, will kind of facilitate, but let it be from the community. Michelle, you can put some ideas or anything that you're thinking of. I know Michelle was part of the conversation planning.
Yeah, it's probably a big enough platform that it's just worthy of its own initiative.
Mhm.
I guess the other idea that I was intrigued by how Michelle kind of framed up the different platforms that we're supposed to be sensitive to. I don't know, I was thinking about trees the other day because I live just south of Our Lady of Grace Church, and I was really disappointed to see all those big trees go down. I have no idea what they're doing, but I hate when large trees are just kind of taken down. So I'm curious as to, like, does the city have any kind of policy around when it comes to development? If a developer comes in and axes X number of trees, they have to plant 5 more to replace them? Like, how does that work? I don't know. Just
There is a
curious.
tree protection ordinance that more or less stipulates that if you bring down a protected tree, well, A, you have to protect the tree, but B, if you bring one down through unavoidable development, you have to plant a new one in its place.
Or 5.
Well,
Well, yeah.
so
I'm just thinking.
a couple of years back on the discussion of for the work plan was actually bringing up a tree ordinance where, if you cut down a big tree, then you have to replace it with something, substantially equal, which, we know it's impossible when it's a 60-year-old oak tree, right? But I believe the Parks Commission started to own that, and they've moved on with some type of ordinance on that. Aside from that, Grace and Ukasha, is there something that maybe the Human Rights and Relations Commission should partner up with us, or is something that they should partner up? or they should take the lead and we partner with them.
I think that there's potential. So I'll speak to that one and then back up to the trees. There's potential to partner with the Human Rights and Relations Commission. Michelle had mentioned in a prior conversation that the HRRC is developing a tool to evaluate their work plan initiatives from the perspective of not only, in their case, human rights, but also sustainability and I think maybe public health and social justice. And so Michelle was asking if that was something that potentially could be exported to the EEC for us to use as well and consider a more holistic approach to our work plan items. So I think that maybe there's a little bit of cross-pollination already happening there that we could propose in our work plan. I think the best way to push these conversations forward about things like a cross-commission initiative, which has historically been challenging for the city to facilitate, the best way to do it is to put it in front of the council. So I would suggest proposing it if that's something you all are interested in and have the conversation with council. Backing up to the trees, yes, in 2021, the Parks and Recreation staff have been working on developing an updated tree ordinance. But I think that they are on the cusp of putting something in front of commissions. And so be on the lookout for some tree updates soon and opportunities to both listen and weigh in on things. So it wouldn't hurt to put it again. This is a conversation that's occurring. It could certainly end up on your work plan in some way.
Mhm.
So, Grace, talking about trees, I know that the park and recreation are working on the new ordinance, but is there a way that maybe we can think about how to educate the community of the benefits that the tree canopy has? Like, you know, I know that the owners, they can do anything on their property, but maybe is the lack of knowledge. You know, maybe there are some trees that they need to go down because they are infected or something, but some, I guess they just take them out without any special, like just because they don't like them. So I guess if we could try to educate either by, well, giving them information or promoting together with the parks and recreations or with the city, like, you know, these planting activities, like bringing the community and trying to see people go and plant, and they know about not only the benefits they create on climate change, but also on air quality, on health living, on good, on benefits of good living, and a lot of things that the trees bring to the, like the soil. So I guess people don't know about them. I want to believe they don't know about it. That's why they cut them. So I guess maybe we cannot work on the ordinance because somebody else working, but maybe we can help in educating the community and bringing this information to them.
Yes.
Something that I'm picking up on as a common theme, I think potentially even 4 or 5 different items we've discussed tonight would fit into this, is educating the community. There does not seem to be a single location where we can identify programs that we think have value as a commission, things that already exist, things that are already, you know, like the Energy Squad, that folks should know about, and that interested folks will probably have to, you know, do 20 minutes of Googling to find the right place. Whereas if they knew where to look, let's say we got a section on Better Together Edina, the website, you know, it might be an easier place for people to find. So I guess I'd like to open up the whole concept of just coming up with a new way to communicate what the city's doing, what the commission's working on, you know, a resource clearinghouse where every time something new happens, there's some kind of communication that goes out that's more evergreen, not just like one letter in a newsletter one time, or whatever's in the top of our heads when we're sitting at a farmer's market and communicating that to the handful of people that ask about that. I think that would solve, you know, a third of the items on this parking lot. And I guess a broader question is, what can the city do So none of us has time to manage a microsite and keep, doing this. That should be somebody's job. Like what can the city offer to actually help facilitate this? Is there any type of resource like this, Grace?
Good question. I think you made the right point that it's pretty decentralized. The city, of course, has a communications department, and there are communication channels that exist. There's social media, there's the news, there's the physical newsletter that goes in everyone's mailboxes once a month. There's the website, and there's the Better Together site. I'm sure I'm forgetting something that our comms department would be mad that I'm forgetting. But I think you make a good point that it's decentralized and it is kind of one time. There's a lot happening in Edina, and so things get maybe one shout out a year. So I think that while there might be opportunity for staff, I think that the city could support something, but it would be really interesting for the commission to put this idea forward to the council and have a conversation about what would actually be effective. Because it seems as if, a press release and 3 or 4 social media posts is not effective.
Yeah, I think that's that sounds right to me. I guess it just doesn't seem like the strategy works, and this is probably, I would imagine, any of the other volunteer commissions have the same type of issue. I think with these sustainability programs, though, there's a value add to all of this that's only there if the residents know about it and take it and actually use it. And I think in this case, like with transportation safety, that's a different thing. That's more compelling in some cases, but it's not like something, it's either there or it's not. In this case, a lot of this stuff is there and it's an education gap. And so therefore it might as well not be there for 99.9% of the residents. So the imperative of communicating this properly is, I think, something we've yet to crack. And I would strongly advise that, let's say the council doesn't want to have a specific single program with realtors to give sellers an opportunity to showcase environmental improvements to their homes. Well, all right, let's put a bunch of stuff into one group and work with the city communications staff to determine a better way to communicate to residents. That would be something I would be very in favor of on a work plan. Another one, the coordination with other cities on climate action. That one's intriguing. I think that I would like to broaden that to be coordination with other cities on best practices and or unique programs that they've implemented that we could learn from. I think Edina does a great job with a lot of things, but I'm sure there are unique programs in adjacent cities, potentially across the country that we can learn from. And so I'm not sure of a great mechanism to go and find those best practices or to then, bring them in. I don't think it, needs to be an agenda item on every council or commission meeting next year. I feel like that'd be overkill, but there's got to be a way to identify some best practices that we could, work on, and maybe that ends up becoming a seed for new work plans in future years. But that could be a work item in and of itself, just kind of going out and doing some of that research for best practices.
Yeah, actually, there was this group at some point that was organized by Youth Environmental Activists of Minnesota, I think is what the organization is called. And it was just a bunch of student commissioners got together and talked about what their cities were doing. So we kind of were exchanging best practices. And actually at our last meeting, which ended up being canceled because it was, I think, the end of the year and it was complicated for people to make it. But we were actually doing some research for best practices across I think across the country and even internationally. And then actually one of the things we were looking at that we were gonna try to encourage student commissioners to push their cities to do. There's this program by C40. I don't know if you guys have heard about it, and I want to propose it for next year's next year's plan. I don't know what your thoughts are going to be on it, but I just wanted to share it with you guys. It's called Reinventing Cities. And then basically, so it's like the real thing is a competition between like I think there's like 19 participating of the C40 cities. And then basically they have to use like an underutilized piece of land to implement a project related to like energy efficiency or like sustainable development or the circular economy, water management, or things related to that. And then the overall goal is that like it will lead to a resilient and carbon-free development. So we were thinking, well, basically like they use a piece like the land could be like an empty plot of land or like a someplace that could be like redeveloped and like made more sustainable. So like I don't know, some examples that I was like looking into just so you guys get a better idea of what it looked like in real life. There was like a vacant lot in a suburban area near like Chicago, and then the winning project that got like, so it's like basically a competition. There's like teams that have like ideas of how it could be redeveloped, and the winning team, they suggested to do like a green building like housing project. And the plot of land isn't super big, so I think it could be something we could do like here in Edina. Maybe I don't really know where. I was thinking maybe Southdale, where there could be like more multifamily or like buildings. I think that would be like the idea. But basically they like it was a building, or the goal is to build a building that is like 100% of the energy is produced there, 100% of the stormwater processed on site. They want to have an oak arboretum. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but that's what they want to do. And then a rooftop garden dedicated to urban agriculture. And then just overall, just like making it like a sustainable place in town. And I was thinking this could be like something we like encourage maybe to like all community members, or even if we want to like make it this like a collaboration with the school. I think it could be a good idea, like a good way to like implement our education goal in a more like hands-on manner. I don't know what you guys think, but I think it would be like a good idea if we could try to do something like, obviously not as extravagant as that, but just like to bring awareness to the community about the importance of like sustainable development and urban planning and stuff like that.
Sounds like a good idea, but I don't know, in that case, do we need to work, could that be working together with other commission like transportation or planning? Which I don't know. We can put it in the list. So anybody else?
Oh, of course I do. There's also the street sweeping that's on the list. And they're just saying the best way to improve quality, water quality, is actually through street sweeping. That was if like one thing, I think it was Jessica had said, like there's one thing we could do to improve water quality, street sweeping would be it. I know that's a whole city, that's like a budget thing or anything, but it might be something that we might want to mention again, to do an extra street sweeping to get leaves off the side of the road. And then there's one other thing. The whole communication piece is really challenging, right, for all organizations. Would it make sense if we had something on the parking lot to dive into, like a work plan initiative of communication, to just try and think outside of the box as a commission on ways to reach different groups? And maybe it's trying to find ways where people are, to meet them where they are. Now, granted, that would take a lot of like people doing stuff and going out, but maybe that's where we can engage some of those volunteers. So if we get Edina volunteers, then that also broadens our network base, and therefore that would in of itself get the word out more.
I think that's essentially what I'm proposing is
Okay.
that communication become a work plan item in of itself. I almost reject the notion that it needs to be volunteer driven. I think it's an imperative that it's city driven, and that the city's resourcing to this point has not been sufficient to advertise and support the programs that it's already spent time implementing. It's like having a business and nobody knows it's there. I think the city needs to do more, and I think that our commission can be in a great position to support that and to help, produce content, drive content, and prioritize things. But I think at the end of the day, it's you could argue that there's a communication problem with half the stuff we talk about.
I mean, it's a point well taken, John. I mean, just think about the energy and money and I'm on that climate action plan subcommittee. There's like 20 people spending 3 hours a month or whatever. It's like big chunks of time. And it's a huge initiative and they're spending money bringing in a consultant. So the question is, how is that ultimately going to be communicated to the city residents so they're even aware that it's in place? I mean, that could be an action item for next year as well. It's like this year we developed the climate action plan. Next year we communicate it or something of that nature, could be part of that broader communications effort.
Yeah, I agree with all of you that I think we should have an item on communication that encompass like all the initiatives, and also trying to reach like not only like underdeserved or the Eastern African community, like all the communities. So I guess that could be on the list. So I guess with all this, I don't know if somebody else have anything to say. I mean, I guess we have now a longer list, right? Grace, I've been taking notes, and I guess you also have been taking notes. So what I will propose is that why don't we make a list? Maybe Grace, you and I can work together and come up with this list based on the discussion we've been having, and maybe maybe we can do a poll based on this list, and we can send it before our next meeting, and then in our next meeting have the poll and see which are the tops, and maybe have a little bit more discussion to start defining a little bit more what we want to do, what are the next 4 or 5 that we want to include. I don't know what all of you think.
That works.
Okay, well, I guess if everybody is agreed, do we need to make a roll call on this, Grace? No? All right. No? Okay. Okay, so well, thank you. I think we had a very good discussion. I think we have good ideas. We need to define more clearly, but I guess it's a good start. So our next item in the agenda, it's related to the next meeting in July. I guess Grace hasn't made the announcement, but as starting July, we're starting to meet in person at the City Council. So our next meeting is on the 8th of July, which is 4th of July week. So I want to propose a change of dates, but we need to all vote, and we need to have a majority on it. So I am proposing 2 dates. One is Wednesday, July 14 at 7 at City Hall, or Thursday, July 22 at 7 in the City Hall. So I don't know if it works for all of you, for most of you. The thing is, the thing is that the weekend of the week of the 4th of July, I guess well, I'm going to be out and I'm not going to be able to be there. I guess some others probably will be out. That's what we're proposing, the change. But if it doesn't work for you, the meeting can take place with the rest of the commission.
I think we should move it. It's not very practical. What were the 2 dates you were proposing?
It's Wednesday, July 14 at 7, or Thursday, July 22nd at 7. All of them at City Hall. So I don't know. Should we vote?
I move that we do the meeting on July 14th at 7 o'clock at City Hall.
Yeah, I agree.
I actually have a board meeting that same day.
Okay, so Thursday, July 22nd, does it
will
work?
the best, yeah.
I could do 22nd. Yeah, 22nd would be better.
John, does it work for you?
Not as well, but I can probably handle it. Yep.
Michelle,
Then I move.
Tom, so should we take a motion? So so the next meeting will be Thursday, July 22nd at 7 p.m. So I guess we'll have to take a motion. So I don't know who moved it.
I move to have a EEC meeting Wednesday, July 22nd at City Hall at 7.
Okay,
And I
so-
second it.
Okay, perfect. So Gallardo moved it and Natasha seconded. So can you do the roll call, Grace?
Yes. Commissioner Decane,
Aye.
Commissioner Haugen,
Aye.
Commissioner Haran,
Aye.
Commissioner Lanzis,
Aye.
Chair Martinez,
Aye.
Commissioner Ratan,
Aye.
and Commissioner Tessman.
Aye.
All right.
Perfect. So our next item is number 6, which is chair and member comments. So I don't know, I don't have any comments, so I don't know if any of you have comments.
I just have a
Yeah.
question related to that meeting and being in person. Will we be receiving instructions as to where to go and masks and that sort of thing?
Yes. I can, Hilda, do you want me to share what I know now or wait until the
Sure.
staff?
No, yeah,
Sure.
sure. Yeah, sure.
So all commissioners and really all Edina residents will receive a formal communication from the city manager in the next week or two. But this is how we're expecting to proceed. In-person meetings will resume in July, and they will be masks optional, but reduced capacity in the rooms. And in July and in August, so there's a 60-day transition period. So for the months of July and August, commissioners and other attendees for meetings have the option to be remote, but it gets complicated with public disclosures about where, basically, if you opt to be remote, if you need to be remote, you'll need to share on the record, I'm at my home at X address to comply with our public meetings notices. And so we are encouraging commissioners, if they can, come in person in July and August. In September, all commissioners and council members will be required to be in person, or it will be considered an absence. The Energy and Environment Commission meets in the community room at City Hall. So there are 2 rooms that can host public meetings. One are the council chambers on the 1st floor, and then the community room on the 2nd floor of City Hall. They will be recorded, but the audio will be recorded, but the video will no longer be broadcast or recorded. So that will be a change. And that's all I know right now. So the EEC will be one of the first meetings in person. Although now that you've moved it to the 22nd, that won't be the case. The council will meet on July 15th. That will be one of the first in-person meetings. So we'll be able to work through some hiccups ahead of this commission's meeting. But again, there will be a formal announcement from our city manager forthcoming.
And is the change to that primarily from what we've been doing now? We'll be adding community comments. Is there anything else?
The public can attend the meetings. The public can be in the room with the commission and listen, although they can only speak during community comment.
Grace, but with these two months, are we having a public? Is it open to the public also, or we're just?
I don't know for sure, honestly. That's something I can check into, but again, it'll be best to see if we can wait on that question until we receive the information from the city manager.
And John, just a quick, if you go to City Hall, go up the stairs, go to the far end of the building. That'll be the community room.
One other thing I'll note
Thank
is that since we went remote, City Hall has received a number of security updates. And so there will be a new level of security for us to work through as far as ensuring that doors are unlocked at the right times, that kind of thing. So just an FYI, hopefully it will be running smoothly, but that'll be something that I'll appreciate your patience on.
Since it's our first in-person meeting, is there some way that we can celebrate this? I mean, there's new members too. Let's throw a party.
Yeah, let's do a party.
Great idea.
Yeah.
We can bring something to eat.
Mhm.
Okay, so just one comment from my side. Next Tuesday, the 15th, I'm going to present our update to the City Council on our work plan. That's it. So I don't know if anybody has anything else for comments.
Are you doing that virtually, Hilda?
Yes, that's virtually and it's open. I think we can share. I don't know if it's already, is the link already, but I think we can share it with you and you can listen to it as because it's open to the public.
Could you push that out to the commission so we could listen in? I'd love to hear comments directly.
Yes, absolutely. As soon as we have the links, I'll share it. And I do think actually that commissioners will have speaking privileges in case the council wants to ask about a specific initiative or a question to a specific commissioner. But I'll confirm that when I share the link. And that will be, next Tuesday, the 15th, from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
So any other member commissioner has any comments? So I guess it's item number 7, Grace, but I don't know if besides in-person meeting, do you have anything to share with us?
I do actually have just a couple more items, so I'll keep you for a few minutes. First item is that you might have noticed an unfamiliar name on the list of our participants this evening. So I want to introduce our summer sustainability intern, Sletsy Dlamini, and Sletsy is joining us. He's a recent graduate of Luther College in Iowa and is joining us for the summer to work on a lot of what we talked about tonight, communication plans, both from a data analysis and a community engagement perspective. So Sletsy, if you feel free to unmute and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Sletsy, and yeah, thank you, Chris, for the introduction. I just recently graduated from Luther College in Iowa with an environmental studies degree, and will be here over the summer working with Grace and like the engineering department. I have some background working with local governments on sustainability initiatives and community engagement. So I'm excited to be here in Edina working with you all.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Awesome. So Sletsy will join us on the 15th when the council hears from the commission. You will also meet him in person at our July meeting. So that'll be great. And then just a couple other things. I also want to give a shout out to Anna, who received the Mayor's Youth Service Commendation Award this last weekend for her service on behalf of the environment. So congrats to you. We're very proud to have you on our team.
So well deserved. Congrats, Anna.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
2 other items. I did send an email about any EEC commissioner who might consider joining the Human Services Fund task force. And this is a group of commissioners who review funding requests from the city for social services within Edina. So the deadline for that, I think, is in 2 weeks, the 21st of June. So keep that in mind. I will re-up that email in my follow-up to this meeting. And then last but not least, the July 4th parade is, oh, sorry, Hilda?
No, Bayardo, I think, wanted to say something about
Yes. Last time this was brought up, I was volunteered by Chair Jackson. So Hilda, I believe you have the
so I can choose
the advantage, I'm going to say that, to volunteer one of your commissioners.
But do you have to have one commissioner
You-
from?
It's not required, just recommended.
No, I couldn't do that.
Oh.
So you feel free.
Hello.
volunteer.
We can hear you, Bayardo.
Oh.
Can you hear us?
Yeah. I
Oh,
think we
weird.
lost.
Well,
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Well,
so we'll think on that one. One last item. I don't want to keep you much longer. July 4th parade is happening on July 3rd. Historically, the EEC has been a part of the parade. I think that they have driven one of the city's electric vehicles, or otherwise created a banner and just kind of walked generally. So there is an opportunity. It's been very short notice. They just announced that this parade is occurring this year, so it's very short notice. I will put it in the email, in the follow-up email to this meeting, as an item that folks can indicate if they're interested in it this year, or if it's too short a time, because I know it's just a couple of weeks. So keep that in the back of your mind if you're interested and in town. And that is it from me.
thank you. Can we jump to Bayardo? Maybe Bayardo, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
You're back.
You got caught when you were saying you were volunteer. Can you briefly describe your experience? Like, you know, it's not that I'm going to volunteer anybody of you, but maybe somebody gets interested with your description.
Okay, so I didn't really know what to expect, but I met some of the other commissioners from the different commissions. So it's a joint effort on finding the organizations that the city donates money to. So basically, there are a number of organizations that are nonprofit in the city, and every year the city disburses funds for them to operate. They range from organizations that help the elderly to organizations who are mothers or women who are abused, to organizations for our youth who are in need, either homeless or children who have gone through the adoption and now are older than 18, who are now need assistance. So there's a number of different organizations. They help everything and anybody you can think of, and it's up to this group of commissioners who come together and help out the city in how to disperse these funds to these organizations.
Thank you. Well, it sounds very interesting now that you presented it. So thank you. So now, one other question quickly is that the organizations are not from Edina. It could be from anywhere of the state.
Most of the organizations are actually in Edina, but they also serve non-Edina residents. At the same time, the organizations who are throughout the entire metro. So, but they have to show, well, that there is a benefit also to the city, not just in the metro in general. So that it benefits both the community, the city, and the organizations, the people who these funds are going to.
Well, thank you. Very useful. Okay, well, Grace, share us again the information and see if somebody wants to join. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I don't know if you don't have any more comments, right, Grace? So I guess if we don't have any more comments, I think we should adjourn the meeting. So I don't know if anybody wants to do the call.
So move to dismiss.
Okay.
Second, who says second?
All of us.
Okay.
Or myself.
Natasha. Okay, so Grace, can you do the roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Decane.
Aye.
Commissioner Haugen.
Aye.
Commissioner Haran.
Aye.
Commissioner Lanzis.
Aye.
Chair Martinez.
Aye.
Commissioner Ratan.
Aye.
And Commissioner Tessman.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you
See
all.
you
Thank you.
next
Thanks,
meeting.
everybody.
Take care.
Very
Bye.
good. Good night.
Bye-bye.